welcome everyone to the Car Dealer AI show. Today we have Don from Wood Wheaton, Buick, Cadillac, Chevy, and GMC. On the Car Dealer AI show, we talk about all things AI, and more specifically on these interviews, we'd like to talk about what's working with car dealerships today regarding AI, what people's processes are, and just kind of talk about the future of AI as well. So welcome, Don. To kick it off, we'd love to just get your overview view on how are you using AI in the dealership right now. Are you like it? Do you dislike it? It's okay to dislike it as well. And talk about the pros and cons, what's working, what's not working.
Yeah, I think, I wouldn't say we're early adopters, but, in the Canadian context, Impel, which is, it was an AI-driven chat tool. We were one of the early adopters of Impel, not just in the Wheaton family of dealers, but I think in Canada. And we tried that, and I think we did that for, 18 months. And it was good. I was not overwhelmed, but it did do a couple of things that I think every sales manager struggles to have happen, which was to be able to stick handle a lead and have continuous follow-up that you knew was going to happen in the background. I don't know that I was overwhelmed by the amount of deals that it necessarily generated, but I think it did a good job of stick handling leads. I think that AI in general, it's permeated our business on a number of levels. We're a Reynolds DMS and CRM customer. We have recently seen Focus, the Reynolds CRM tool, implement an AI to give you sort of some AI informed intuition about what your customer might want in that next follow-up. And it's baked in the capacity to use AI generation for emails and follow-up, but there's a little bit of intuitive content that it's creating about the customer based on what it's seeing in sales and its service interactions. So yeah, I think AI is absolutely part of the landscape in a more, not tangential, but in a more unusual context. In the last few months, I've used Suno AI, a song generator, to create jingles.
Same.
And we have a fairly strong radio presence. We're in a smaller market, population of about 75,000 people, but we're big radio users. But when Suno came out, I decided to try my hand at writing some lyrics and then having AI render jingles. And they were lights out, absolutely awesome. So that's part of our core market.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow,
So
Suno's nuts.
AI is finding its way into our business in ways that we probably didn't anticipate. But I actually have my arms wide open for it, and I continue to listen to industry podcasts. And as we're going through recording and discussing this, I'm in the middle of looking at our DMS for the GM and the Honda store. It's time for a contract to come up, and as I'm looking at that, there are some of those DMS providers. What I am actually looking at are some of the tools that they have enriched with AI components, and if they're not, when will they be? Because I don't think the car business can move forward at where we're at to where we want to get to, and where I anticipate customer expectation and technology to evolve. I don't think you can get there. I don't think you can add scale to your business probably without it. So I think it's an interesting discussion. I don't have a lot of answers. I sure have a lot of questions, which I think is probably what we're going to be covering. I have more questions than I probably have answers about AI.
Yeah, I love that. So one, you just loaded the whole agenda for the show, so I'm excited about that.
I was going to say, he trigger rubbed you with the Suno.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let's start on that. So I have a Spotify channel now. I have 18 songs on Suno that I've published, and then I have a Spotify JB AI, and you can plug that in, and you have 3 songs right now on Spotify, or maybe 4 songs on Spotify so far. It's called DistroKid to publish all the songs over to there. And so I try to do like one a week, and I slack off every now and then. So, but I'm excited to go through all of them. And then I have a list of like 100 different song ideas. And for me, it's actually been an amazing like journaling experience. So I'm not using it for business or jingles like you, but I love that. That's the first time we've heard that on the show.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it's amazing to just kind of write about. talking about some of the vendors really quick. So I think all of us on the phone call know what all the vendors do and how they do it. But for the viewers here, we want to show what's working, what people are doing. I'd love to jump into Impel and Reynolds for a little bit. So it sounds like you had Impel, which I believe is kind of answering leads immediately and handling follow-up via text and email, not voice or anything, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's the version of it that we were using. And to be fair to the Impel folks, I mean, when I left, it wasn't because they were great service partners and a really good tool. But at the time, I just felt like it wasn't getting me what I wanted. And so I went in a different direction, and I tried a couple of different versions. And it's a funny thing. At some point, Impel will be back into my wheelhouse in consideration as I look at what chat tool or what tools we'll implement. So I'll be interested to see how it's evolved in the last year, almost 2 years since we've been on it. So.
It's wild. Sometimes you know a company of what they did a year ago, and that's normally okay. But with AI now, that's like, oh, they probably released a completely new feature every single month since then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then you switched to Reynolds, which it sounds like you chose I'm not super familiar with their full service stack. So part of what you said is the first time I'm hearing this, is it sound like you chose their human in the loop style process where they're just prompting.
Yeah, let me clarify that. We've always been a Reynolds dealer. I just use Reynolds enhanced their CRM tool with an AI component that wasn't there before. When we left Impel, we've tried a couple of chat services. So we went without one for a while. Like we tried a universe where there was no chat, no AI at all on our website to see what did that do, what was the impact on our business. I'm not sure that it changed a whole lot, but I've started to think that we probably needed something. So we tried a virtual BDC that had some AI components and some human elements as well. And it was a hybrid, and it was okay, but it was lackluster. And in the end, I wanted something that would be a good placeholder for a customer when they got there to answer questions. So we're with Goobagoo right now. But again,
nice.
And that's a good placeholder, but that's to me, I mean, that's all it is. It's a good placeholder to have a conversation. To be honest with the AI component of it, more recently, I was so kind of underwhelmed with some of the answers that I actually turned the AI component off and tried to keep it as much on the Google side as like a people or a very simple online assistant versus trying to stick handle questions, because the AI was sometimes giving us some information that was not relevant to the customer's question. So.
Can you share an example of what kind of question that it didn't really handle?
Sure. Customer asks for information on a Traverse, and it serves up a used Ram truck and says it has interest on it. Which it's a Ram truck. The question was about a Traverse, and no, it does not have 0%. So and there were just started to be, and not lots of them, but there's enough examples of that where I just didn't feel like the AI was at a level where I thought, from a consumer standpoint, if I'm in there, I'm not getting my questions answered the way that I want them to. And if the fail rate was even 5 or 10% in terms of the efficacy of the Q&A, then that was too high for me.
Yeah.
And the other side of it that I paid attention to was the amount of times that you could see in the chat boxes as I would watch the chats go on throughout the day, the customers seemed to be like, is this AI? And then exit. Right, and the second a consumer becomes, if they're asking that, and then they exit, I'm like, okay, well, they've already had this experience someplace else and they're not digging it. So I started to see that quite a bit, where customers were just disappearing out of the chat as soon as they felt like, this is an AI, this isn't a human being. So we put, we diluted the amount of AI that we're using in the chat world. Now having said that, here I am in the middle of trying to source perhaps a replacement or looking for Google to enhance or improve what they have, but I'm also shopping around for other vendors that can give me a better chat experience with a more robust AI platform. Because I think that, I have been on a couple of non-sales related AIs that actually worked really well in a chat environment, and I thought, Okay, and these were, like an airline company, WestJet, over Christmas. It was the AI chat that actually solved my problem in a way that an actual person couldn't. At least got me to the answers that I needed. And I thought, from a consumer standpoint, that's what I want AI to do, right? If it can do that and point me towards an answer or a solution, versus being frustrated talking to actual people. That's sort of what I'm trying to recreate when I'm looking for an
Yeah.
AI tool, at least from the chat side of our business.
I
Yeah, on the
think
chat side, and just any of the AI, whether it's voice, whether it's chat, or text, I think the integrations are is such a huge component. You mentioned a specific vehicle. I'm wondering if Gabagoo is integrated with the inventory, because if you're not integrated with the inventory, there's going to be some sort of disconnect there, right? Whether that's if the 0% financing is available, or to even get the right vehicle that the customer asked about, is going to be key for just making sure that conversation is fluid all the way through. So I think integrations is a big thing to look for when you're vetting out vendors, because if they're not integrated, there's definitely going to be some disconnection there, and I think that may be a part of why Gabagoo may not have been able to handle certain situations. But yeah.
But I think they do have an integration. I mean, they
Oh,
do.
okay.
It does serve up inventory, but I just think whatever is informing the language model, like that's driving it,
That's what I was gonna ask. Yeah.
right? And I mean, I know that, and there's lots of conversations that go great, and we're car dealers, right? So of course we focus all the things that go wrong. At least from an executive manager standpoint, we typically don't champion our successes. We focus on where there's opportunity for improvement and things that we don't like, right? To me, it does a lot of things right, which is why I haven't left the platform. But
Right.
it still leaves me wanting for a better experience for the customer. And with the exit rate, when I don't see a huge elevation in the amount of lead conversions. And so AI chat helps hold the customer's interest, but where we found more success was dialing up our process by having our salespeople engage as quickly as possible. And when we have salespeople stick handling the leads, once we kind of get past the what are you looking for, and once there's a vehicle, as quickly as possible, you introduce people into that conversation, we have a much higher conversion rate than we did just having it on its own. So
Yeah, that's so good. I think the dream is always an end-to-end model, right?
yeah,
Can this AI do this from end to end completely? And it's funny because I think one thing, as I've experienced even using AI tools myself, um, I think it exposes the broken systems. Like you can set something up and it's like, hey man, there's a leak here. So it's like, why is the LLM not pulling not fetching the right data? Is it because there's inventory is not catching this? Did we miss something? Um, and you notice that a lot, and sometimes it's good to have that in place, the AI, so you can kind of be aware of that.
yeah,
Um, and like I think the way you guys are using it, Don, it's like it's a placeholder. Like you said, you have your salespeople. Hey, let's jump on as quickly as we can. But in the future, what would it look like to then even automate that process? Obviously, there's so many like things, quirks that you would have to figure out. Like, hey, this is our scripting. This is what we say. This is how fast you would have to do that, and training that LLM to do that as well. But at least for right now, in my experience, in all of this, I think it's been that. It's just even using Claude. I don't know how many platforms are you even using internally for your dealership, um, just from an admin standpoint, right? Like, are you generating reports? We had this thing go viral, right, John? What is it? OpenClaw we were talking about last time.
yeah.
The bot that kind of basically can control your entire computer. You can trigger it via phone. But even that, if it's not set up the right way, it can do a lot of things, right? So I think you're seeing that shift. I think you're seeing that shift a lot.
yeah, for sure. I agree.
Yeah, I think one big topic, thinking about the chat conversations you're talking about is quality control right now. And with proper quality control, you can get the consumer reaction that I felt from you when you said, "Hey, AI solves my problem." Because there's so many AIs that I've personally dealt with where I jump on them like, I'm so frustrated, I hate AI chat. And then there's other ones where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I think one thing came up in conversation that I thought was so perfect is press one to wait for a human, or press two to get your problem solved instantly with AI. And I think customers will start to press two to actually speak to AI first, because if they have enough good experiences that are such high quality. But in order to get that, we have to have this human layer right now that's providing quality assurance. So, like, for example, for us, we own a voice AI company, CarDealer.ai, and as of right now, we internally have humans listening to 100% of the phone calls. And it sounds counterintuitive because, like, hey, we're trying to replace the human out of that phone call, but it's better to have somebody listen to the phone call, submit a ticket into the dev team and say, hey, they could have done this a little bit better. They could have done this a little bit better. And like you mentioned earlier, we've been on the vendor side for such a long time, well over a decade now, that we know that dealers focus on the one negative thing. So we don't want that one phone call to go out that didn't go over super well. And
Yeah.
even
Car
though
dealers will
99%
throw
of
the
them are
baby
great.
out with the bathwater, so for sure we will. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and that's okay. Now we'll go to something else that you mentioned earlier, which I really, really love, is you said you're looking for more of your tools to be enriched with AI components. And I think that this is amazing. I think that so many of these legacy tools that are many times really, really big companies are having a tough time trying to figure out how to put AI into their systems. And therefore, it's opening up the doors to AI startups that are just starting from scratch. And now we're hearing of CRMs and DMS systems that never existed before that are just startups. So one, speaking to like how fast it is to develop, but two, I'd like to kind of brainstorm for a little bit and think about, I think many times when we think about AI, we think about conversational AI, but there's so much more opportunity on how you purchase a vehicle, how how the upstairs they do the accounting and the books, and how the F&I process works. Like, what would you build into any of your current tools, you think, to enrich them with AI?
Well, I think that there's access to data, and AI at least can be the part of the fuel in the background that supercharges some things. If you look at things like Auto, and we just recently migrated to AccuTrade very, very recently. We're still in the infancy of that swap. But I think what used to happen is, once upon a time when I started doing this a long time ago, we looked at Black Book and your gut instinct, and now there's more data that gets scraped out, and AI is part of what has made that possible, right? So grabbing real-time data sets. So I've seen it on the appraisal tool because I'm not a car guy, I'm a sales guy. And there's a big difference. I'm not a car nerd, I never have been, right? But so as I move through my career, having real world data that you can access to help reinform and shore up your opinion on what's this car worth. Well, AI has sort of made that super popular and the internet, obviously, but those two things working together to say, hey, this is what your car is worth, and this is why. It gives something great to face the customer that legitimizes the appraisal process, and two, it grabs data instantaneously from all across the country to say this is why this is worth this. I mean, that's a big deal to me. So I think it improves the trade process. It makes it more scientific. It's less arbitrary. That was one place where I've seen the benefit of technology really improve that part of the sales process, which I always felt had flaws. So that's one part. I think AI and service and stuff, we're seeing different versions of that, how it improves the owner experience. If there were, it would be great from a customer standpoint if AI evolved to a spot where, much like I can send out a driveway appraisal through a tool and say, hey, take some photos and ship it back to me. It would be great at some point for something through AI to go to a customer and say, hey, if we could electronically communicate with somebody's car before they got here and said, your check engine light is because of X, Y, and Z. We're going to order the part, and then when you're here 2 months from now or whenever the part gets here, we can figure that out and triage cars in advance. I've often wondered if AI points a way towards solving those problems for customers in the service side of the experience. Yeah, I think that there's lots of room for it. When I watch some of the younger sales guys, and now that's impacting some of the veterans. I've got sales guys that when they're working with a customer, they've got Gemini or Copilot or something open. I've got sales guys out there that are brand new that are creating tests in ChatGPT. It's like, here's all the inventory. Now create a test, a 10 question exam for me to learn about the product, right?
That's cool.
Over and above what they're asked to do from a manufacturer level. So even our team is finding ways to use AI to improve the experience. Email writing and all of those things. I think a lot of the things that where we didn't think it was possible, much like when we talked about, I'm not a musician, but I wrote some lyrics and something made a song. Yeah, but what that turns into is I say I wrote a song, not really, but I wrote some words and something magic happened because AI made it happen. I think that that's one of the things that we're starting to see is that AI is just making some of the consumer and the sales experience part, it's enhancing it. And that's why I use the word enriching it. I think we can hold it at arm's length, but I think you just got to find ways to make it dovetail into your sales processes just to make them better, right?
Just so that way we can make better decisions and also turn things into natural language. I love the idea of the check engine light becoming more AI focused, because think about how old school that is. The fact that you still have to go get somebody to plug something in and tell you what's wrong with the vehicle. Like, I just ignore check engine lights because I'm like, it's probably just another O2 sensor, or maybe it thinks that I need an oil change, but I know I don't need an oil change.
Yeah.
But if my infotainment system was reading that and then telling me and explaining it to me, I'd probably go ahead and schedule service. Or what if it just scheduled service for me because it was integrated into my calendar? I think that that's getting to there. I do have a question on that actually. So Charles and I have been doing this AI news segment, and that's actually encouraged us to really follow what's happening in automotive AI-wise. And there's so much more evolution in the actual hardware or the actual vehicle getting AI. With you being so close to GM, are they talking about any of that kind of stuff and new product releases that you're seeing so far?
I think that was probably, if I felt inside the brand where that was probably most true, is probably on the Cadillac brand side. And that's because aspirationally, that's a heavily EV-driven platform. So in an EV environment, that experience lends itself really well to AI and all of those different tools when you're trying to create an experience for the customer, or a mobile office or whatever it is that they're trying to create. But I think that's probably most true in Cadillac. But if you take that as the halo brand for them, all of that stuff eventually finds its way across the rest of the CVG platform, right? So I think that I think it's part of it. I don't think that there's anything that's wildly, earth-shattering that I've seen in the pipeline yet. I don't think the new Silverado. I mean, things like Super Cruise, though. I don't think Super Cruise isn't possible without some kind of an AI underpinning, right? So I think that those are some of the product evolutions that we've seen. Now, where I live in a somewhat rural area, the take rate on that is less compelling. But in metro markets, that's been a huge driver behind what it shores up consumer confidence and makes nudges their decision towards companies that are really well blended with like super tech. And so Super Cruise is a great example of something that is an AI driven or created tool that really is creating an extra value layer for the customer. We just don't see it as often where I am, where people are like, great, yeah, fantastic. That's not going to help me when I'm on a bush road, 400 kilometers here on a hunting trip. So
Totally. I drive a Sierra EV and I'm hooked on I drive up and down this Highway 25 to get an hour from Fort Collins to Denver pretty often. And I'm hooked on my Super Cruise. And that's been incredible. I also just rented for a week. I rented a Cadillac IQ and was super impressed by just the technology in there. I'm excited I don't know if it'll happen or not, but I'm like, I really hope that they put all this Cadillac IQ styling into a new Chevy Suburban, because I would be a huge fan of that one. But we actually just saw this article where Goodyear is now putting AI in their tires that will actually then communicate up to the vehicle to give you like, I think so many car owners don't know that their tires are wearing unevenly and things that dealers or the Valvoline's of the world are always trying to sell them on. No, it's real. Like you really do need to rotate your tires. And imagine if your tires had AI built into it and then it was communicating it, how many more service appointments do you think you would get? How many more multi-point inspection opportunities do you think you would get? Service to sales opportunities, like.
Well, I think we use the Hunter alignment reader as customers come into our service drive. But even that right there is a function of technology. You drive in and it's like, okay, well, these 3 wheels are out and this one's good. And that's an instant upsell opportunity for a customer and for the service advisor. And before, that was a much longer process. You got to sell the person the idea. We got to put it up in the rack and we'll give you a phone call. But now you can just point above you and just say, hey, listen, you got some red lights. Those are not good. We need to address that. And that has helped elevate our service, dollars per hour instantly, just by having some proof right in front of the customer. And that's tech driven. Again, AI has been part of that, elevation in terms of these tools that we get to use in the service right out. So, yeah.
I just saw this one tool where it's probably similar to this Hunter tool that you're talking about, but it's a big frame that goes in. You drive into the service lane, and it does the dent inspection for you. So it immediately just tells you everything that's wrong. So that way you don't have to go, walk around the vehicle and figure out what's wrong. And then it says that it could also be used for new vehicles or vehicle acquisition, and it actually takes a 3D scan in seconds, like in a couple seconds. You can drive through at 10 miles per hour, and it took a vehicle scan that actually posted the vehicle to your website with full 3D video. And I'm like, that's wild.
And if you could do that, I mean, if you look at tech like that, I mean, now all of a sudden you're in a position where you could appraise every car that came in. You could take that data, if that can be, exported into your trade tool. Now, I see that with AccuTrade, we haven't enabled it yet, but I see our Hunter tool can somehow integrate with AccuTrade. So again, we're in the infancy stage, but I can see that that's already a net benefit to me. Because if I can get a car and its VIN and an alignment story, and that's going to give me the customer information, and that can just shoot over to my trade tool. Well, now as each car drives into your drive-through, just to your point, you've got an opportunity right there. You're sort of getting the basics of a basic appraisal. Run that through an equity mining tool or whatever else it is that you're looking at, and all of a sudden you're creating like a real service drive process that's automated. That's one of the places where I'm really looking for AI to do exactly what you're talking about. Is to give us, and not just for vehicle acquisition, but those acquisitions always, most of those turn into car deals, right? So at least it creates conversation. AI is, I think, very rapidly where it's finding it, whether it's equity mining tools or the service drive, it's improving your chances of converting opportunities, or it's pointing towards opportunities that you, in a way that you never would have been able to uncover, or at least not with a lot of work. When I first started in the business, I remember taking a black book that was 3 months old that my used car manager gave me and going through just a spreadsheet that was somebody had printed off and says, they owe this is book, go to the used car manager, is it worth this? Yes, call the customer. And I mean, it must drive them nuts if I'm doing that 40 times a day. Yeah. Having AI that can kind of automate that process and say, here's your opportunities that have equity. Here's some appraisals that have been put up. These are basic appraisals that are right in your service drive. Go talk to these customers. I mean, that's the real net benefit of it to me.
Yeah, I remember when I worked at a dealership, our GM's it felt like full-time deal was not only doing deals that come onto his desk, but when there wasn't a sales rep in front of him, he was just equity mining. And it's like, that's what you spent every day, all day doing, is equity mining to find opportunities for your sales reps to hand it over to them and say, call this list, call this list, call this list. And now that's just instant.
It is instant. And, hopefully we haven't done a great job as a dealer utilizing some of that information, but I think that what I'm looking for technology to do is to shore up just the reality. Salespeople are good at lots of things, but what they really like is to be belly button to belly button with someone. They want to be able to see the customer and talk to them. Salespeople are just as as a guy that used to be a salesperson for a long time, we're just less inclined to want to be working on telephones. We really want to be talking to people. But what AI allows you to do is, I think, and that's what I'm looking for in terms of solutions. I want AI to be able to help us reach out and start some of those conversations in the background. And then the salesperson can get involved in that at some point. And as he kind of jumps into the stream of that conversation, if there's a take rate from the customer or some interest, I think AI does the work, starts to do some of the heavy lifting, and then in the beginning, and then the salesperson can kind of get involved and try to get that customer finally into the showroom and get things, whether it's a deal or not, or at least continue the conversation. So I'm just looking for AI to kind of be a support mechanism in the sales department to kind of keep conversations going with customers. I think that part needs to be as automated as possible because we want that continuity of care as the customer moves to their ownership. I think that's where AI can really serve us well, right?
Charles, I don't want to take your quote, but what's your mathematic quote about AI and humans?
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback on what Don said, we see the biggest value in doing that, having those conversations with those unsold CRM leads, right? There's so many of them because with AI, you can go all the way to the beginning of your CRM's history. But humans, they have a capacity limit, right? So to Don's point, like I'm not going to call a unsold lead that came in 4 years ago, right? But what we're seeing is actually if you do generate a conversation with those opportunities, they do end up turning into opportunities. You take a 3-year-old unsold lead, and like, what are the odds that that lead went and purchased somewhere else? It's pretty high. And then if you can get an intelligent conversation about what their current vehicle could possibly be worth, we're seeing conversations lead into leads and reactivations, and we're really seeing a huge benefit there. And then to Don's point, just bringing those lowest hanging fruit for the salespeople to then chime in on and handle that lead has been a huge benefit. And I think that's where the biggest value is right now with AI. So I would have to agree with Don.
Yeah, I think what you said before one time is that AI is addition and not subtraction. I think people are worried that it's going to replace the humans, and the reality is it's just replacing what the humans don't want to do. And then allowing them to be, like you said, belly button to belly button. Like that's where they're strongest. Let's let AI get them to the showroom floor and then let the human actually sell the vehicle. And that's the reason why the phones aren't being answered a lot of times. That's why CRM lists are not being dialed. It's because they are on the floor selling. We don't want to take them away from that. Let's let them do that, and just try to get them more opportunities there.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, awesome.
You mentioned earlier that you have a lot of answers, but even more questions. What are those types of questions that come to mind that you would want to explore?
In terms of questions about AI, or just questions like about how AI, yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's where you're going with that.
I think one of the problems that just when I think about like what my expectation is what I find when I grab a vendor or a product, there's this fickleness that goes with that product. Is that you think that it's a panacea and it's going to fix all your problems, right? But there's deficits in every product that you onboard. It doesn't matter if it's a trade tool or a chat tool or a desking tool or digital retailing. There's always deficits. But the problem that I have to, for me, is being able to find something that's like, okay, here's the tool. I think what I need to get better at is be realistic about what this is going to do for your business. Like it can't fix everything just in that space. And what I need to start to look at though, and this is the part that makes me a bit of a foot dragger, is I think I spend a lot of time, and I have been, deliberating over product after product after product. And the problem is I'm wasting time by not implementing something. Now, I don't mean just go out and buy a solution, don't vet it properly, and just get it up and running and have it be okay. But I keep thinking like what I'm really doing is I'm sort of kicking the decision can down the road because I don't think it will do everything I want it to do, or maybe I'm not being realistic because what I want out of it is that's not possible. So then what you end up doing is there's decision-making paralysis. I just don't do anything, right? And we continue to sort of, okay, well, we'll just make this work. This is what I've got. I'm just going to make it work. But I think what in some cases, I'm either ignoring product, or there's product out there that's probably a ready-made solution that I haven't jumped on yet. And it will do exactly what I need it to do. Now, sometimes I think the reason is because we're sort of enamored, or we're just used to our processes. And one of the things that I've kind of started to discover about was we're looking at a DMS change, and we're not for sure changing, but we're certainly going through that process, that we've been a rentals partner for 35 years. There's a lot of anxiety in making a change from this is the tool that you use, and these are the processes that you built to support the tool, right? So you have a tool, but you wrapped all your processes around it. So the idea of going out into the marketplace, get a new product, and then
starting over.
I gotta start all over again. Because if I'm out looking for an alternative, it means what I currently have isn't hitting on some level. And I think sometimes we just like, you know what, we'll just continue to do what we do. I know in this deliberation process, I run the variable side. I have a fixed counterpart and our controller. The three of us have got a lot of anxiety over these decisions. But even for me, and just in the sales side, when I'm looking at, what's my CRM solution going to be? Is it going to be one that's baked in? And am I going to be just okay with okay, or am I going to wait for something that's like some supercharged AI thing? Or do I even want to go through that process? And it's a tough balancing act. I mean, you can't. Sometimes it's the price, but sometimes it's like, I don't know. I don't want to get into a long-term commitment and then find out I made a bad decision, right?
Yeah.
And I've had some anxiety. And some of my decisions have not been great ones. I've made some decisions on things that we've done that the BDC, there was nothing wrong with the product, but there's something wrong with that product the way it worked in our dealership did not work, this virtual BDC. And as quickly as I started it, I had to unplug it. And I've got a great relationship with that vendor, and I felt bad about it. But I mean, as soon as I got in, my spidey sense is like, this is not going to work.
This is not it. Yeah.
And I exited it. But then, you kind of spent all of that time getting that process up and built. And then I kind of ran away from it. I don't know if that was necessarily fair to the vendor, but since that time, I'm telling you, everything I've been looking at, chat tools and all of it, I am becoming a bit of a fence sitter for commitment, right? Because I'm either waiting for the tech to do something, and I don't even know if I know what I want it to do. You look at a demo and you go, yeah, that didn't blow me away. So is it you just go wow, like when it's a wow, then you do it, and if it's oh, that's all right, is that good enough? And that's one of the things I struggle with, right?
That's amazing. I bet you a lot of people are struggling with those types
Yeah.
of decision analysis. And right now, with all these new vendors, like we started interviewing a lot of vendors as well. And there's so many more companies that we've never heard of that just started in the last 12, 24 months, because now with vibe coding, you can launch a startup tech platform in no time. And some of them are extremely impressive, way better than, actually, I just saw a DMS pop up. I think it's called Lightspeed, and it's an AI focused DMS. And they actually have this dashboard that's, instead of dashboards like just providing metrics, it's like AI will just communicate with you. This is what you need to do. Like, this is the opportunities we see. Here's everything. And AI is just analyzing your DMS at all point in time.
Yeah.
We definitely hear you on the process. Being on the voice AI side of things, we see a lot of dealers that we need to come in there and kind of coach them of, hey, if voice AI is going to be an employee at your dealership, this is what that means. Like, for example, if the voice agent has a phone call with somebody, then they're going to send that lead or that appointment into the CRM. Don't call them right away, because they think that they just spoke to a human. They don't think that they spoke to an agent or an AI agent, and then now they need to speak to another human. Like 99% of people that actually have these phone calls don't even notice that it's AI. So it's almost like a human following up after a human. And that's okay, but there are just shifts that need to be made internally to adjust processes. But it's scary when you've been with something for such a long time. our company just switched from, been trying to switch from QuickBooks to this new AI bookkeeping tool called Uplink. And now I'm having all these issues with it. I can't upload files. It's not doing this, and this, and this. And then I'm like, the tried and true sometimes is just going to be better. And then, like you were saying earlier, I just wish they would enrich QuickBooks with the right AI so I don't have to go look for another startup.
So one of the things that when we went to Impel, one of the things that happened is you kind of removed the salesperson a bit because AI was doing all the stick handling. So it was doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And the salesperson would eventually get an AI generated appointment. And it did actually convert appointments, and it was reasonable. But one of the things that the salespeople felt is because all of a sudden it's not like a regular Shark Tank, style chat process where first come, first serve, or we usually do distribution. We control the distribution at the desk level, so leads come in and then we distribute based on how guys are converting and how many leads they've had, etc. So we're a little bit more hands-on in the distribution part. But when that was going on, it was sort of a round robin thing, and the sales guys were like, "Yeah, like there's no internet traffic." Like to them, it was like nothing was happening.
Yeah.
Like, what did you guys do to our business? Like there's no, because they're not part of the conversation, right? Versus even when those conversations go nowhere, at least if they're in there texting or emailing back and forth with a lead, it felt like something was happening. But the second it took a long time, for those guys to get over it. It's like, oh no, the AI is going to work fine, and then the lead volume was reasonable, and I think right now they're back in it. They're really in the trenches, and our conversion level's really high. It's higher than it's been in a long time. But now they're hearing me talking about I'm trying to find like an AI solution to go back in to look after chat and internet leads again. And I can already feel the anxiety level on my sales guys come up, and I get it, right? So, and that's part of where my anxiety is about trying to find the right tool that does all of those things, that keeps us converting at the level that we're at. But then for the salespeople, they're thinking, well, as long as it works and my lead count doesn't go down, because I'm converting really high right now. So this, for us, 2 years ago, we were probably like everybody else, 6 to 7% conversion on leads. And now we're 18, 19% conversion, but there's a really heavy human involvement in that, right? That would be a problem for me, is that I think that whatever tool I'm going to look at, it needs to be able to perform at that level. That's the benchmark that I've set for myself now, because we've created that. And the sales guys are like, it's not broken, boss. Why are you trying to fix it? I don't know. And that might be right. Maybe AI hasn't solved that problem for us, at least at the scale of our business, versus the market that might see 1,000 leads a month. We see 100 to 125, 150 leads a month. It's not a lot. But we're at least converting close to 20%. So,
yeah, and I agree. I think that AI should be held to that same exact benchmark and only improving that benchmark. And I think for us, that's why we take the approach of not necessarily focusing on hot leads, but focusing on the things that you're converting at 0%. The past customers and the unsold leads that have already died out. But it's funny. It reminds me of a story that we had with a client like 5-7 years ago, not an AI story, but we had this client and he was like, everybody on the sales floor is just bored right now. They want more things to work. They want to feel busy. And we're like, okay, well, we can turn on this and this, but it's going to cost an extra investment. And he was like, no, how about you just export all the leads we've gotten in the last 12 months and re-import them and just drip them into our CRM and call them something different. So we called them Apple Auto Loan leads because they were all like subprime loan leads, like Auto Credit Express style leads. And I was like, this is hilarious. To get the sales reps right now could just be working the unsold leads, but they're not. So we need to call them new leads so that way they'll work them. And again, now bringing that back to AI, it's like AI would have just been motivated to work those unsold leads. Humans are not motivated to do that because they're used to working at this 19% conversion rate that you mentioned, where every lead converts, 1 out of 5 leads are converting at that point. But they don't want to work the 1% leads where 1 out of 100 are going to convert. But the AI will work those and squeeze all the juice out of all that data.
Right. Now, the one use case that I think that from voice AI that I'm interested in looking at is you get a new salesperson, and now you're going to grandfather them in some customers, right? You're gonna do a round robin. They're gonna, yeah. And I've been in a store where thankfully it wasn't digital, 30 years ago, but it's like, well, here's a list of 400 people that were this guy. Start calling these people that you never had a relationship with. I I actually think that from the voice AI standpoint, I'd be interested in a tool that could go out and make those phone calls and not feel like I don't want to make. It's just going to do it. And if AI was strong enough that it could make that phone call and have a brief conversation and move its way through that, just to say, how's the car? Hope everything's okay. Call us if you need us, so that you have those touch points happening. Because salespeople fundamentally just don't like making those phone calls, particularly if they never sold a car, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's so true.
that's where we're seeing the biggest value, and from a voice standpoint,
Yeah,
hitting those what we classify as dormant leads, but then reactivating those leads and then allowing the salesperson just work those reactivations because conversation went great. They wanted to know how much their vehicle's worth. AI was able to give them a range of Kelly Blue Book, and now that lead is there. At least you know that you're working the customers that opted in and want to be worked, and that's honestly sums up like our strategy from a voice AI standpoint.
and is that just working old leads or customers in your CRM?
So CRM, you can pretty much give it any lead to work. But we're focused on unsold CRM leads and then trade cycle customers. So someone that didn't purchase from you maybe 3+ years ago, it's able to reach out to that customer via text and email, and it's only conversating with people that want to be have a conversation with. So the connectability rate is extremely high. And then when it connects with that customer, it's able to have the ability to let them know what their vehicle could be worth up to. But obviously, we need a 10-15 minute appraisal to get a firm offer. When would you like to come in to do that? And then that way, that once that customer picks a time or whatever the case is, that lead is now in the CRM, and the salespeople are just working those hot reactivations.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's interesting thinking about the relationship piece of it. You said, "Oh, I don't want to call this list because I don't have a relationship with them." I don't have any data on what I'm about to say, but I feel like the customer never has a relationship with the sales rep. The sales rep thinks that they have a relationship with that customer, but the reality is like once they left that dealership, the customer never really cares to chat with that person again. They do have a relationship with the brand. They know that, hey, I purchased at Wood Wheaton and I will be open to listening to that. So whether it's a new sales rep or it's an AI agent calling them, the relationship piece is null and void anyways. They just want value. They want value to know that they're in a positive equity position or trade a cycle or that their lease is about to come due. And you could do a lease pull ahead program or what's the appraisal on their vehicle to try to do services sales. And yeah, I mean, I think you just said it perfect. As a human, you weren't motivated, or people aren't motivated to do that because they're like, I don't know this person, but AI doesn't care about that.
Well, I've often
As of
said,
Felix.
well, yeah, there's a whole business, there's this whole cottage industry the car created for things like private sale companies, and now that's migrating to AI solution companies. But the reason that those solutions even exist, there has to be a marketplace to be served, right? But the reason that all of them exist, consigning your business over to a third party to come in and say, hey, let's talk to the customers. That as salespeople, when we sold them the car, we said, hey, I'm going to be your person and I'm going to be in touch and I'll be around. And then you didn't do that. So, 4 years has elapsed. They've heard nada from the dealership. And now you bring in this third party to send out some invites and make a few phone calls and say, hey, do you remember me 4 years ago? You bought a car. I said I'd look after you. That didn't happen. But now I've hired this guy to come and make me make this phone call to reanimate
Yeah.
it. And AI is sort of doing the same thing. It's filling a void because the reality is 90% of dealerships just don't do that. And we hired a guy that came from a store where they got to make 80 phone calls a day, and he's like I'm just telling you straight up, and it's one of the largest dealer groups in Canada. He said I can tell you what that looked like. it's a box checking exercise. Those were not 80 phone calls if we're having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
That was like 80 did it in the CRM, and a few phone calls and a couple left messages. And he said, like, we are who we are. I think AI can kind of solve that problem. Now that I'm not making excuses, because I don't think that's the right way to do it. And eventually I figured out you just got to reach out and talk to your customers. But then you're relying on the 10% rule. 10% of your salespeople are going to be committed to that level of activity and engagement, and the rest won't. So the AI solutions solve 90% of the problems that live in the marketplace in car dealerships, right? So.
I was creating a list as we were going, but I think that this is the most ideas that we've covered on one call, which is incredible. But interacting with the CRM, AI doing things that humans wouldn't want to do. I love the jingle idea, utilizing Suno, having your sales reps give themselves product exams based on in-stock inventory, and then even AI scanning tires and taking photos of vehicles. And yeah, what I nerd out about, I think the most, is thinking about this ecosystem of every single process inside of a dealership. And we've just named all these different things, but all of them are going to start colliding to be one just automated system that is essentially running most of the operations of the dealership, or most of the monotonous things in a dealership, to make the humans more intelligent.
Yeah, and I think that, it's interesting when you have market disruptors like a company like Techion. I think what a lot of dealers were looking at was a vertical solution that would require no bolt-ons. You could be in an ecosystem that would address all of that. Now, in Canada, there's not very many dealers on that system, and in North America, I think the take rate is high on some dealer groups, but I've heard there's been migrations in and out of it. But you ever get that technology stack right, where all of those tools can be found in one spot? From a dealer standpoint, you would think that there should be some economy having it all under one roof. I think what we all want, the novel idea, is that we would all like that. The reality is that I've often thought that some people are just really good at a thing, right? And in the tech space, there's been some people that have cut out, hey, well, look, we're no longer doing CRMs. We're just going to do DMS. Because they're what they want to do is capitalize on their real expertise and not dilute it by trying to be other things that they're not good at. And I was, for a while, if you were asking me 3 years ago, I really had my eye on something like Techion, and I'm like, okay, but can they be all things to all people? Maybe I just, I'm going to get as much vertical as I can between my website provider, et cetera. So with my website, I'm very vertical. Like, I try to use as many of the tools that they have. But and the DMS side, I'd like that to be true, but I don't know that it is. And I think what AI does is that you can color your product a little bit with AI, but I still think that there are some specific tools that are AI focused that you're going to go out and have to grab a third party, just because they've got it dialed in a way, and then you bolt that on. And as long as it's not cost prohibitive, it should work. But ultimately, everybody would like it under one place, and you've got one vendor that you're paying every month. But I just don't know that you get there. Or if you do, I question how much expertise they're going to hit it on everything.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe it's possible, but I'm not sold that that's a thing. So.
Yeah, integrations are going to be key, because bolt-ons are probably always going to happen, unfortunately. There's never going to be that one person who can do it all. I think Cox Automotive is proof of that, trying to do that. And even they're just a giant bolt-on company.
Yeah. Well, and look at all the sales trainers, right? Nobody ever got it right? Like, there's been Joe Verdi and Paul Cummings and Grant Cardone and everybody else online, and all of those guys are out there in that space, and they haven't solved all the world's problems, right? There's still salespeople that require training. Nobody has made the magic bullet that makes a customer just come in and buy the car as soon as they walk in the door, and that's going to be true of technology too. So I think for me, it's just making sure that you vet the tech, the company that has it, look at the support tools that they have to go behind it. What's their real level of expertise? Try to get a dry run as often as possible. If you can beta test something at no cost to you, that experiment is probably worthwhile, or at the very least go play with their tool in somebody else's, that's being implemented in somebody else's sandbox for a little bit to see how it works before you make the investment. But the voice AI stuff I'm certainly interested in, and I know that's part of why we're doing this podcast. So we could certainly have a broader conversation about what kind of tech you guys have that I might be interested in. So.
Excellent. Well, yeah, love to keep in touch. Amazing conversation today. For those watching, if you all love conversations like this, please like, subscribe, and turn on that bell icon for notifications. We also started a Facebook group called AI and Automotive. So if you want to be in the trenches in these conversations, we have right now 1.2 thousand members in there, and incredible conversations are happening every single day. So go ahead and join that Facebook group, AI and Automotive. Thank you so much for all your time, Don. Amazing content, amazing conversations to just kind of push everybody's brain to the next level when it comes to what's working with AI and car dealerships today.
Yeah,
I hope to keep in touch.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Take